Just like a bone doesn't need to understand how it got broken in order to heal, neither do you. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't heal the pain from the past, but everything that you need to know about yourself, which is wrong or broken or wounded, will be shown to you through your present experience, through your triggers. Our triggers are actually our greatest gifts and the keys to healing, because they show us where our wounds are. It's actually not necessary at all to go and dig up all of your past, relive all of your past, and talk about all of your past. Even though, yes, there can be some benefits to intellectually understanding it, it won't actually heal you. And I can speak to that from personal experience, because I did therapy for like 7 years, okay? I did talk therapy for a few years, right? And I understood all these things about myself. Like, okay, I understand my childhood. I understand why I became the way that I am. I understand why I do the things that I do. I understand that it's not serving me. I basically have a PhD in codependency by now, I swear. And it was like, even though I came to understand, okay, yes, I am trying to fix people. That's a way to make myself feel needed, because I don't feel worthy for existing just as I am. And even though I thought that this was a noble cause because I'm being so giving and self-sacrificing, actually it's just a different form of subtle manipulation and control in order for me to try and get my needs met by changing another person in order to make me feel safe, instead of just accepting them as they are, which is somebody that cannot fulfill my relationship needs, right? Whew. So logically, I understood all this, okay? In my mind, I know it's not going to work. But it didn't stop me from hopping in to different person, same situation, and going through it for another 2 years. Except this time it was even worse, because now it was like I was watching a horror movie, right? You know when the chick's running away from the murderer and you're yelling at the screen like, what are you doing? Don't run up the stairs, you fucking idiot. Go outside the front door and get in your car and run away. That's how I felt, you know? So it's like now, at least before I was in the movie and I didn't know I was being an idiot. Now I'm watching the movie play out in slow motion and there's nothing I can do to stop it. And I already know how it ends because I've seen it 3 times already, but here I go. So just talking about it won't stop you from making the same mistakes. It won't actually heal those internal wounds. So here's what you can do instead. This is how I actually healed myself and started to actually get better and feel better, get over my depression, get over my anxiety, get over my addictions and all these different things. You have to be able to sit with your triggers, okay? Like we talked about in the previous video, in order to actually go through this process, you also need a safe energy container. So this process, I like to call it unlock, release, and regulate. It actually sounds simple, and it is, but simple doesn't mean easy. So let's dive into it. So the first step in dissolving your pain body is to unlock the wounds, to unlock those hidden trauma thorns. Now, if you've been triggered by an external situation, then that trigger has actually already done the work for you. Because despite all of the protective barriers you have up to protect yourself from feeling that pain, something got through and touched on the area around the wound which caused you pain. That is what it means to be triggered. All right, so it's already been unlocked for you, which is why triggers are actually a gift. From there, you have to move on to the release phase, step 2, if you want to heal. So again, in order to go to part 2, you need this safe container. Now, obviously, you won't automatically be in a safe container the moment that you're triggered, especially if you are somewhere outside or in a social situation. So a personal example for me is I used to get anxiety attacks at work. Now, obviously, I can't allow myself to sit on the floor and let myself cry for hours and shake and do my somatic stuff in the middle of work, right? They would probably think I was having an exorcism or something. So what I would do is I would imagine my inner child or the part of me that I can feel is wounded, and I would say, okay, I can see that you're in pain. We're safe right now. And I can't address you right now, but as soon as I get home, I will give you my full and undivided attention. And then I would do some kind of emotional regulation technique temporarily, like breath work or go for a walk or some EFT tapping, just to kind of bring myself to at least a semi-neutral space until I was able to get home. Then, once I got home into my safe space, my safe container, which for me is my guest room, I would sit on the floor, usually, and I would set the intention to pull this trauma thorn out of myself, which for me started showing up as a visualization where I would kind of see my inner child like banging on the inside of my heart door, especially when it was something related to anxiety. So then I started imagining myself when I was starting this process, I would envision going to my heart and opening this closed door and setting the intention that anything that was behind it had permission to come out. And sometimes it would take a few minutes for me to start feeling something. Sometimes it would take up to an hour. Sometimes I started trying to force myself to cry faster because I just wanted to get it over with, and it would never happen when I was trying to force it, right? I just had to like let go and let it naturally come out. But inevitably at some point I would go from sitting up waiting for something to happen to like sobbing hysterically on the floor usually. So your visualization may be different, but the point is intend that you unplug that trigger and allow yourself to fully feel all of the pain that is hiding behind it, okay? And it may be grief, it may be anger, it may be despair, it may be sadness, whatever it is for you. Just sit with all of those emotions, feel them fully, let them come out. Now, the trick here is you have to be with your feelings without adding more energy to the story, okay? So this is where the strong spiritual foundation comes in, because you really have to practice being the observer here. You want to observe everything you're feeling fully, observe the thoughts in your mind, but don't add more energy to it. So adding more energy to it would be something like, let's say you're processing a breakup, okay, and somebody has left you, and obviously that was very triggering for you. All of the old rejection wounds, abandonment wounds, whatever it is, you're feeling maybe worthless, rejected, not good enough, lonely, all these different things, right? So you want to let yourself feel all of those things in this moment. But what you don't want to do is go into your mind and let your mind run away from you with this, okay? So you don't want to go into like, well, fuck all men, fuck women, everybody cheats on me. Of course this is happening to me again. Remember last time and this happened in my childhood, and just spiral on and on and on. And let yourself relive the situation in your mind over and over again, because then you get stuck in this infinite loop. You need to be able to sit with all of your emotions, let yourself feel them, but not go into the story in your mind. Just watch the mind, but don't go into the story and feed it even more things. Let yourself feel the worthlessness without creating a story behind it. And that can be pretty difficult. And this is where it can be really beneficial to work with a healer or a trained therapist or somebody that is a guide for you, because they can keep you present with the emotions and keep you in check when you start to intellectualize, when you start to go too much into the story. Okay, sometimes it's almost impossible to do that on your own. Sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. So that's where it can be really beneficial to work with a healer. Also, sometimes you just can't create your own safe container for whatever reason. Your house isn't safe, or you simply just don't trust yourself enough to go through this process alone. So either way, whether you're releasing by yourself or with a therapist, still the process is going to look kind of the same. Okay, you unlock the trigger, you set the intention to allow yourself to fully feel all of the pain that trigger has brought up for you. And then you keep feeling it, you keep allowing it to release until it naturally dissolves. Okay, at some point it will dissolve. And the good news is, usually after I do this, I feel a sense of euphoria, right? So I'll end up sobbing on the floor, sometimes for a couple hours, and then finally it will just naturally quit. And then I'll just feel this extreme sense of like peace and release and groundedness and euphoria afterwards, okay? But you have to let yourself just go through the process and feel it all. Which then finally leads us to the last step, which is regulate. Okay, so once you felt everything, once you felt all the grief, all the anger, all the despair, okay, then that trauma, that wound has now been released. It is gone. It's gone from your body. And that means that all the protective barriers that were associated with it dissolve as well. But you have to take a moment at this point to sort of rebalance your body. Because if you imagine, like if you guys have ever driven a car that's out of alignment and it was, say, pulling to the right really bad, so you kind of had to overcompensate for that and pull the steering wheel to the left. but then you go and get your car aligned, and now you don't have to pull the car to the left anymore, but you're so used to pulling it to the left that it takes a little bit to get reused to the new alignment, right? So that's what's happening now, is your body isn't used to not having this weight on it. Your subconscious mind and your energy field isn't used to not having this weight on it anymore. So you have to take a few moments while you're still in this energetic container, this safe container, to move around a little bit and let your body get adjusted to this different way, of being, to this new sense of balance. So me personally, I like to get up and dance a little bit. I am getting a Zumba instructor license right now, so I like to get up and Zumba. You guys can just get up and do some jumping jacks or just shake it out, do a little bit of breath work, do a little bit of stretching, whatever feels good to you. Just get up and move a little bit until you feel like your body is steady and balanced in this new regular space. And again, this is something that a healer can walk you through as well. Sometimes it's kind of hard to bring ourselves back to neutral after we've had such a huge release. We can feel kind of lost and floating in space and overwhelmed with the intensity of the emotions that we've just felt. But again, whether you're working with a healer or you're working solo, this is the last phase of the process. And then finally, once you release it, then you can go about your regular day once again. And so the cool part of this, guys, is that the more you do this, okay, each time you do this, you are removing a wound from your body. You are removing a wound from your energetic field. And every time you allow yourself to feel these triggers, every time you allow yourself to have these releases, then you are dissolving a thorn. And every time you dissolve a thorn, you dissolve the protective barriers that were there to keep anything from touching that thorn. Every single time that you dissolve a thorn, every single time that you dissolve a protective barrier, you unlock a little bit more and more of your true self, okay? You remove more of the things that were blocking you from your true self. And you're able to feel the natural frequencies again that are with your true self, which is joy, love, peace, and abundance, okay? And again, your external world will reflect this back to you as well. So not only will you start to feel internally more peaceful, joyful, loving, and abundant, but the external world, you'll be able to receive these feelings back. All right, guys, so it truly is that simple. It's a matter of sitting with your triggers, allowing yourself to feel the full range of emotions that come up behind those triggers, allowing yourself to release those emotions, and then regulating yourself back into your new balanced state once you're done releasing that. Now, I will say that sometimes there's a sort of purge period at the beginning of starting this process for the first time. You may actually start to feel worse before you feel better, but it's not that you're actually getting worse. What's happening is you're tuning into your body and all the pain that you were previously disconnected from. So depending on how much stuff you've got going on, you may have a lot of releasing to do at the beginning. So you may have to feel pain on a more regular basis than what you're used to. But again, it's just a short-term period of purging. And while this may not be the only technique you'll need in your life to heal, I can promise you that if you stick to this, you will go very, very far. And you will see dramatic shifts in your internal state of being and your external reality. So truly, guys, this is the crux of healing and spirituality, is being present not only through the good times, but also through all of the hard and difficult emotions, okay? And mind you, this is also actually a huge part of the ascension process, okay? Ascension isn't actually about forcing yourself into positive emotions and positive thoughts. It's about releasing everything that you are not, because your natural state of being is love, joy, peace, and abundance. So as long as you work to dissolve these layers of the pain body, you will return to your natural state of being. And the more that you dissolve this by allowing yourself to feel those negative emotions, the higher your consciousness and your state of happiness and peace and joy and healing will rise. So it may seem counterintuitive. I know there's a lot of information around there that feeling negative emotions means you're at a lower state of consciousness, but it's not true. The more you allow yourself to feel those things, the more forward you will move. So I hope that this was helpful, you guys. Truly, I love you so, so much, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.